Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of Sky U Pod, your college huddle Golden Gopher football podcast. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as everywhere that you might be listening to the podcast. And also, please visit thecollegehuddle.com, where it has tons of articles and lots of podcasts that represent many of the college football schools around the country. And gives you a good read on all things college football. We got a good episode for you all tonight, but fellas, how you doing tonight?
Doing good. Glad to get week one under the belt, and feels like we're in it. College football's back.
Yeah, I'm happy to be past week one, not just because we lost, but I spent this past weekend down at the in-laws. A lot of jokes to be made there, but it was actually a good time. I just did not get to spend a lot of time in front of the TV watching football. Plus, the FanDuel account was not cooperating with me, so was not getting to place as many bets as I was hoping to. So, a rough week one for many reasons for me, but happy to be on to week two, and a lot of good football happened. So excited to talk
Yeah.
football.
I have to agree, with PJ Fleck, how he always says, we're 1-0 in the whatever football season. I'm glad we moved on from North Carolina. That kind of stings, but I do kind of feel refreshed. Also coming off a big misinterpretation of the SMU game. I'm sorry to everyone that put money on the famous Sky U Pod parlay of the week. 2 out of 3 hit, but this week I feel more confident. Stay tuned, and you'll see what we have in store for you all. But let's get started here, guys. Week one, college football is finally back. What were your thoughts? Anything kind of stand out from week one?
Yeah. First of all, we'll start in the Big Ten for me. Gophers only team that lost. Unfortunate. I would argue we probably played the second or third toughest team. I don't think that's really much of a argument against that. Luke Altmaier and Hudson Card, two quarterbacks I talked up in our QB rankings earlier this summer, absolutely showed out. It's one game. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but that's what stood out to me was the good quarterback play. And then teams like Oregon, Wisconsin, Iowa struggling early on. So it wasn't just the Gophers that had offensive struggles. Yes, the Gophers' offensive struggles continued throughout the game, which was unfortunate to see. And I think there is some reason for concern. But we weren't the only team that started out slow or was in a little bit of a dogfight there early on. So, I don't think there's any reason we should be, foregoing whatever optimism we had on the season after just the one game. But and then nationwide, I mean, Florida State's got some issues going on. I think we all had them in the playoffs. I think I picked them in the playoffs, if not just out. But 0-2 to start and be basically after week one and be 0-2 if you're Florida State. That's a tough pill to swallow. Heel brother showing us some love. We appreciate you guys. Congratulations on that dub. I hope you guys win the ACC now and make it look a little better on our part. Thanks for tuning in. That's what stood out to me. A lot of great college football. Other teams started slow as well. Unfortunately, they also won, but a lot of football left and a lot of improvement for a lot of teams across the board.
Yeah, no crazy. Yeah, other than Florida State, no like crazy stunners, but some interesting games that were closer than you'd expect. Obviously, like Oregon and Idaho. Like seeing that score at halftime was like, wait, is Idaho like sneaky really good, or they have some big NIL deal with Idaho potatoes, or I don't what's going on here? Like, why is Oregon a national contending team that close with an FCS school? So that one kind of stood out. Interesting one, especially Oregon coming into the Big Ten. I guess week one's always weird that you have those games, but I think the other one that stood out as an interesting one, not so much who won, but just that USC and LSU wasn't a complete shootout. Like I was expecting both teams to be in the 40s and seeing more of a low scoring, what I did end up 27-20 game.
Right.
Not a shock. I think Brian Kelly's now lost like 3 straight week one games. So That's tough for
I said
him down at
LSU would crush
LSU.
them.
But
That obviously didn't happen. So
yeah, no, that was, and yeah, kind of a surprise that USC won, by as much as they did, even though it was only 7. But I thought either way that was going to be a 3-point game, you know,
sure.
up in the 40s. But yeah, it's a good week overall, though. Some good games.
Yeah, I would agree with both of you. Those were obviously big standouts. But one that I have to say too is that Georgia team, man. They look really
Yeah.
dangerous. Part of me is like, is that more Georgia or more Clemson? I read a stat that Dabo does not utilize the portal at all. Clemson is one of the worst schools in terms of utilizing the portal, and pretty much aligned with all of the Army, Navy, the academy schools, right? Which was interesting to me. Part of me like applauds him. He wants kids that want to play at Clemson, right? And I understand that. But I thought that was interesting that he
I think in
doesn't
this day and
utilize
age,
that.
it's crazy not to utilize it. I
Right.
get it. Like you want to be a high school recruitment build up team first, and they've had a lot of success doing that. But with how often other teams are just plugging and filling holes in today's
Yeah.
day and age in the portal, I feel like you got to make that adjustment here at some
Right.
point if you're Dabo. And I don't hate Dabo. He gets a ton of hate online for being who he is. He's a great head coach, obviously, 2-time national champion, but. Yeah, got to make some adjustments there. And then one more Big Ten game. I feel like we can't move on without at least mentioning here at the start. How about Michigan kind of struggling with Fresno? Now, Fresno's not a slouch of a program, probably one of the better programs that anyone played this opening week, but they went with the walk-on at quarterback, I
Yeah.
believe, over Alex Orgy, and they couldn't throw the football. So
Right.
Michigan might be, I'm not trying to read too much into it after week 1, but in my head, I'm just thinking, okay, well, maybe USC is that 4th team that's fighting for that playoff spot with Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon, and maybe Michigan is just that much of a step back without
Yeah.
without Jim Harbaugh and Carter Stallions.
Right.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
Michigan had some easier non-conference opponents coming up, it probably wouldn't be too much to read into because they're just going to try to figure it out. But you got Texas coming to town
Yeah,
this week.
game day.
Like, you need to get right today. So that was,
Right.
I agree. That was surprising to see Warren's name on the stat sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what about the Gopher game? Now that it's all said and done, we've had time to reflect after that. Kind of, I wouldn't say it's heartbreaking, but it was a little like just slightly gut wrenching, just a little bit. It was just like, you know.
Yeah.
I guess I'll start with my feelings. I'm not as disappointed as I thought I would be in terms of season outlook. I did think that they were going to win this game. I hope that they did too, because I had us going 7-5. I don't know if that's going to be achievable right now after that, but I do think that we have the athletes to make something happen. The Gophers do have the athletes. It's just a matter of, are we going to utilize it? Is the O-line going to clean up? They didn't do so well. Is Brosmer going to kind of look like a veteran quarterback? He kind of looked like he was a little uncomfortable during the game. Defensively, I don't really have many questions. Lots of missed tackles. Linebackers look a little suspect at times. But other than that, I think that these next couple of games leading up to Iowa just kind of get grounded, show what you can do a little bit. And then if you can win that game at home against Iowa, we're back in the saddle, and I think that they can make something happen.
Well, the fans will be a lot happier if that's the case. I'm right there with you. I think my biggest disappointment thinking back on it was the offensive line play. Brosmer, you mentioned, looked uncomfortable. I saw someone put out the stat today. He was pressured on 28% of his dropbacks, so basically 1 in 3. And he was sacked 5 times to go with that. So that's got to get cleaned up. Again, we played an actual team, not not a nobody, but still, you're going to be playing a lot of actual teams coming up here in Big Ten play. So, got to get that cleaned up. I feel like our O-line has been pretty solid at getting better as the year goes on in years past. So, if that's our biggest issue, I can live with it. You still got to get going on the mixing them up, not being so predictable in the play calling. That's a little bit bigger of an issue. I'm sure we're going to touch on that later here as we talk about the press conference. That is probably my long-term biggest concern. I mean, that's like a PJ Fleck 10-year defining moment, as if he can start to get a little bit more aggressive in the play calling. And I'm with you overall. Thinking back, I think outside of so many missed tackles, first game, a good tailback you're going against, a little bit tougher weather. Obviously, you want to be a little cleaner in the season opener, but I thought they were a lot better than I was expecting. North Carolina brought back pretty much every receiver we saw last year, and they threw for over 400 yards. Yes, I know no Drake May was there, different quarterback situation, but it's definitely a step in the right directions. Our corners, I never felt were out of position. There was no, extremely long plays. We gave up a couple runs here and there where missed tackles happened or they made a guy miss, but yeah, no explosive passing plays given up so far, and something to build off of.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about after the game that, whether Kesich makes that kick or not, we end up winning. But, we did lose, obviously. But win or lose, we probably feel the same, as far as the outlook of the season goes, as far as concerns and everything else. So, in a way, it's kind of a positive, I guess, that even though it was a loss, it was we were right there to win it. We had the opportunity, just didn't go in that time. But yeah, I think long term, I guess my outlook on the season doesn't change a whole lot. I kind of had that one as a 50-50 game anyways. So I think record wise, we're still, everything's obviously still on the table for us. It wasn't a huge surprise loss for us. But yeah, like you said, Kurt, some of the same play calling issues that we would have liked to seen changed a little bit. That's a concern just because that's something we've seen not change over PJ Fleck's tenure. And some of the conservative decisions that he made. I guess the other concerns too, like you said, just some of the pass protection, mostly because it was like one-on-one matchups where we were getting beat consistently. It wasn't because of stunts or any sort of exotic blitzes.
Sure.
It was straight up a guy getting beat, but that's fixable too. I think that kind of led to some of Brosmer's accuracy issues at times, but I guess we'll kind of see over the next couple of weeks how his arm looks once he gets some maybe a cleaner pocket to throw in. But I think the pros for me, like my positive takeaways were all the defensive issues like we talked about, the missed tackles, that's all fixable. And that's to be expected week 1 too. And I feel like the defense, I feel like our defense's ceiling was almost raised a little bit for me because in all phases of the game, pass and run defense, guys were not out of position. They were playing physical. We were making plays. We were forcing pressure on the quarterback. So I don't know. I think I have a more positive outlook on this defense than I expected to coming into that game.
Yeah, something I probably feel like we didn't emphasize enough were how good the corners, I thought, compared to how they played last year. I thought the corners had actually a pretty strong game overall. And Gophers' offensive line wasn't the only one that struggled week 1. I saw Ohio State fans complaining early on. They weren't running the ball as effectively as they were hoping to against Akron. Donovan Edwards didn't have a ton of yards for Michigan. So, we weren't alone in that aspect as far as O-line not being crisp to come out of the gates. So lots of issues, but hopefully we can get it fixed up and we'll get it turned around. I'm not selling my 8-win mark. I'm sticking with it.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Before we transition into this upcoming game, fellas, in some Gopher news, PJ Fleck gave his Rhode Island preview, and he did say a few interesting things. Don't have an update on Darius Taylor. I think he's going to be out again. I just think that's just going to be – I have a feeling it's going to be kind of like a Lindenberg situation like last year.
He should sit out.
Unfortunately.
We should not see him until Iowa. Even if he's healthy, right. I don't want to see him until Iowa. Just keep him out at this point.
He did think that going into the North Carolina game that the first team to 20 would win the game. He does think that the stat sheet was more balanced, or the stat sheet didn't really show how balanced that North Carolina was. And he also had this to say.
The first half, you're going to go down their first that first driver at 0-0, and we score the field goal. I mean, you got to go in there and do something. And we go down there and get the ball tipped on first down. We run the ball for no gain. You run the ball again to be able to get maybe half that back, maybe not even half that back, maybe get inside the 5 and make a fourth down call. Because if you don't get the fourth down, that's fine. They got the ball inside the 5, and the defense is playing really good. So, there's all those different things that come into play.
Okay, let me start with this. There is no chance that he is going for it on fourth down. If we run it and get inside the 5, maybe the inch line. Maybe he would have QB sneaked it if we got it down to the inch line on fourth and goal. But there is no way, with how conservative PJ's been in his past, there's nothing he's shown us that he would have gone for it in that situation, fourth and goal from the 3. He would have kicked it. He absolutely would have kicked it. So that, the BS meter it breaks. It's not even going on. It broke. He shattered the BS meter with that statement. But that's the first thing. My second thing I wanted to bring up after that, and again, if it wasn't obvious, he's talking about that first possession inside the red zone, which was the first doinked field goal off the upright. So no points came out of this drive. Second thing I want to get to, if he really believed that 20 points is going to be what it took, first 1 to 20 wins, you have a 3rd and 9 to get 6 of those 20 points right there in one play. And you ran it on 3rd and 9? Like that, the percentages do not work out at all for that logic to decide to run it there. And the third thing is, in the immediate presser, he talked about how they came out, they added the extra DB out on the field, so he thought, it wasn't just to catch them off guard. They were in pass defense, we were going to run the ball. Okay, so now if you're playing the Gophers and it's 3rd and goal from like anywhere outside the 5, just bring an extra D back and we're going to run the football. You'll know what we'll do. That's what you're just projecting out to other teams right there. You're letting them dictate what you're going to do with their personnel, which to an extent I get. But like, dude, it's 3rd and 9 from the 9. Like, go for the end zone. It doesn't even have to be all the way into the end zone. Let Daniel Jackson catch it short and try and make something in. If he's doubled, maybe you have a one-on-one somewhere else. That's a much better option than running the ball with Marcus Major, who had a solid game, but he's not Darius Taylor. You're down to your second running back, and your best bet is for him to run it 9 yards into the end zone before they can swarm him. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's the same thing we've seen over and over and over again. And I think, PJ's had a lot of time to think about that answer because he didn't really give that clear of an answer. Well, thought I would have an answer after the game when he was basically asked the same question. So it sounds a lot better. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's a lot of thought to put into a situation where you're so worried about getting close to the goal line. Why not just try to go into the end zone once, maybe? I don't know.
Right.
I don't understand it. And I don't get why we can't, drop a play where it's like roll out of the pocket. If it's there, throw it. If it's not, throw it away. Or maybe Brosmer has a chance to run. Like, I don't know. I feel like we put ourselves in these situations where it's like everything has to be perfect and break our way. And if it doesn't, then it's just not going to work. Like, it's such a low percentage play call and play design, and it's stupid.
It reeks of BS, and to me, he knows that what he's saying is BS. I mean, he has to know. He can't really believe that. So to me, what the answer is, either he doesn't trust the team, he's worried that they're going to turn the ball over or something, or he is just completely oblivious. It's one of the two. You're right. It's one of the two because, like you both said, the logic doesn't make sense. First 1 to 20 wins, you have an opportunity to get at least 6 on the board. You opt to try and get 3. That's just a given. You are okay with getting 3 there. You didn't want 6. You were content with getting 3. If we ran a 9-yard touchdown, icing on the cake. But you didn't do that. So I feel like you just don't trust your team. And that's okay. But
point, to go with that point though, we weren't moving the ball great in that first half. I mean, we only got down there because Justin Wally's pick, right? Or for the most part. Actually, did Wally's pick come after that? I think Wally's pick did come after that. But yes, Cole is correct. Spencer just needed to catch the ball in the end zone in the second to last drive. He absolutely plagued by drops. I need one of the receiver play this week and then show me something. You're absolutely right. Receiver number 2 is an issue right now. That needs to get cleaned up. But back to this first missed field goal doink where we settled for basically running and kicking 3. We weren't moving the ball consistently down the field to begin with. Like, how many more opportunities do you think you're going to get a shot at the end zone from this close? Like, not a lot. I mean, we did get a few more opportunities, but not much. So, yeah, it made zero sense. Sorry to cut you off, Trey. I just want to add that point in.
No, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say. I don't buy it. And I feel like he doesn't either because it just doesn't make sense. And, it's okay to just say, I didn't feel like we were going to score. I wanted to protect the football. There's nothing wrong with saying that. I just don't know why he doesn't. Unless he truly believes that. Unless he really is oblivious to it, I guess.
You're allowed to take more than one shot into the end zone. Yes.
Please do.
Yep. Outing is right. He's completely right. Max, you said it in our group message today. You can take 3 shots, 3 pass attempts. If you don't hit any of them, you kick the field goal on 4th down. And if that misses, just like it did, so be it. You tried. You gave it a shot. But this feels like we were really settling for 3. No killer instinct at all. And you just settled for 3, which didn't even happen. So in that scenario, to me, it's like you might as well just try and take a shot.
And of all the places to risk a sack from the 9-yard line, you should be okay unless you ran back 30 yards. But
yeah, throw
Yeah,
it
it's like
away. Even if you just if it's 3rd down and you have to throw it away, so be it. Settle for 3, call it good. But
it's like we just minimize our own, like, the ceiling of the best case scenario just gets minimized when we do that. Like, it just felt like the best case scenario was 3 points, which is ridiculous from the 9.
Right.
Well, that's from the 9-yard line on 1st down, even. Like,
so there's one other thing he tried to slide in here in this press conference that I think needs some attention, and I kind of get what he's saying. Like, we attempted more than, I don't even have it up in front of me, however many pass attempts we actually ended up with. I think 25 or something like that is what it ended up with, and maybe not 22, but he's like, we attempted 30 passes in total, just either Brosmer took off or we were sacked on it, so it was closer to 50-50 than what the stats showed. Here's the thing, we averaged like 2.3 yards a carry this game. Remember last year when that happened against Nebraska and Ethan had like 40-something attempts? Where was that approach? Like, we were sold that the issue was all on the quarterback, and we got nothing. We got to protect the ball at all costs, which kind of I get, but like overprotective. You went out and said this guy is the guy that's going to fix the offense from last year because everyone else is back essentially. And you didn't even let him do what Ethan did last year. So again, I don't understand what the plan was for the offense in this game. It's like their only shots down the field they had coming into this game were all off play action. And once we got sacked, it's like, okay, we can't do that anymore. It's quick outs, little hitches, which honestly we could have gone up tempo passing more because that's what Brosmer was supposed to be really good at. And so, yeah, it is what it is. Co-adds in Hampton chewing up the clock. Yes, that's also true. We did have less plays than last year as well, but still, the pass attempts were not anywhere near what we saw for an ineffective rushing game like we saw last year. Like, if you're going to let Ethan do what he did last year, I don't get how Brosmer doesn't get into the 30s at least for throwing the ball.
Right.
But whatever.
Yeah. Well, and most teams too, when they get, when they're struggling with pass protection or it's just not, the pass plays they're calling aren't working out, that's when you do go up tempo, and that's when you do run more of a quick pass game or short passes, not 5-step drops off play action over and over and over again. You're not surprising anyone. That to me, we just felt like we were banging our heads against the wall too.
And We said it on the immediate breakdown, but that fake zone read play can go in the trash. It didn't work with Athan. It's not going to work with Brosmer.
Yeah.
There's nothing off of it. There's no one running a route either. So it was a true read option. That's probably not an actual read. It's just a delayed give to the running back. No one's fallen for it. It hasn't worked in like 3 seasons. Yeah, we don't even really run the RPO. At least we didn't this game. It's been a while since we've ran the RPO like we did in 2019. I know that was Soraka's thing, and he's moved on now. But I thought that would be kind of sticking around. Not that it has to, but the new thing in place isn't working out. It's not working better than what we had. So maybe that can come back a little bit. I don't know.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and yeah. We'll transition here to the Rhode Island preview. Rhode Island. I guess we'll start with this. What stands out about this team? Keys to the game. Max, why don't we start with you?
Well, Rhode Island is neither a road or an island, and that is all I know about the Rhode Island Rams. But it is nice that we get this game to clean things up. I'm hoping, we spread the ball around a little bit on the offensive side, at least get some more receivers involved. If anything, just to get, let the offense see what it feels like to get into a rhythm before we get into the heat of the season and Iowa coming up. But yeah, I mean, this is just a get right game. If we can come away injury free and not give up any like huge plays on defense, not too concerned. But yeah, I think the offensive line play, there should be no sacks. There should be a clean pocket. And if we can hit a deep ball, at least attempt some deep shots just to see what Brosmer can do, that's all I'm looking for.
Here's the good news, listeners. I watched the film. I watched the 12-minute rerun of Rhode Island Holy Cross with the highlights. Here's what I saw. They pulled off a close game victory, 20-17. I have no idea where Holy Cross is. Pretty much,
they're New
whatever.
York somewhere.
Okay, sure, that sounds right. Probably if they're playing Rhode Island. I'll take your word on that. The quarterback for Rhode Island here, let me get his name right. Devin Farrell actually looked like a pretty good athlete. Leading rusher and threw for over 200 yards. Looked like they ran a lot of RPO, read type things, tried to spread you out. So ideally, our line should dominate their line and not let him do what he did to these guys, which was kind of gash them up. And then once they got sucked up, he found a receiver downfield. And yeah, they look quick. Again, it's tough to actually judge the speed when it's against a much different opponent. So I'm assuming we're pretty fast compared to what they just went up against. So that's something I would watch out for. And then defensively, they could not stop the run. Holy Cross had a lot of success running the ball early, but every time they were moving the ball on the ground, they got called for a holding penalty. So we had some penalty problems this past week. Not holding them, going to be key. You should get the win no matter what. But, yeah, I think that just keeping this quarterback in the pocket, trying to tackle him is going to be a big thing, especially coming off a game where, was it 21? I think it was 21 missed tackles we were credited with this past week against North Carolina. I expect to be much better, and it's kind of nice to have a sneaky good athlete on the other side to get the defense to sharpen up against. It's not just completely practice down there. But like Max said, it should be a freebie. Still got to show up. It's college football. But you should be able to outmuscle these guys, and I'm hoping the offensive line takes every advantage of it.
Right. I totally agree. If you both remember last year when we were playing the Raging Cajuns on homecoming, their quarterback was able to escape the pocket. This happened a few times against Nebraska. That happened as well. It was a problem for us last year. So that's going to be the key, I think, for defense, is to keep this athletic guy in the pocket and make him make mistakes. Farrell is a tremendous athlete, so we'll have to keep an eye on him. I do feel like this team overall is not very disciplined. They did have 3 fumbles, and Kurt mentioned it too. They had 8 penalties for 67 yards. So first game of the season, you're kind of getting out all the jitters and everything. So maybe that's the case. But nevertheless, it's still an issue that needs to be cleaned up. And then finally, Holy Cross. I don't know much about them, but I'm guessing they're not like a tremendous team. They were able to gain 170 yards on the ground. That tells me that the Gophers should be able to easily eclipse that. And knowing PJ, that's probably all we're going to do.
Here's the thing. I don't want Marcus Major to have 35 carries this game. There's no reason. He's already proven that he's a competent, above average RB2, I think. So let's keep him healthy. Let's mix in the Ohio transfer, Ben Gura. Let's get the Michigan State guy in here. Let's get Newman some carries again. He made some plays in the passing game last week. So let's, he keeps talking about this depth we have now that we didn't have last year. We didn't get a chance to really see it last game. In part, we didn't have as many plays. I get that. But let's utilize these guys that they brought in. And, even if a guy's not ready, like you said about Bangura, he said he's still got some learning to do as far as I think it was just like reading blocks and learning to bend around. I don't remember exactly what PJ was saying. But that shouldn't be that big of a factor in him not playing against a team like Rhode Island. You should be able to open up a hole, have him hit the hole, get you 7 yards, get in, get out. And I say this as a hope. Ignore my dog going nuts in the background. I say this as a hope. I would let Brosmer throw it around. He threw for over 450 yards against these guys last year. He probably doesn't have a ton of confidence after this first game. Let's get him in some bounce back mojo going here and get other receivers involved, because Elijah Spencer had some drops. We missed some open ins and outs last game. Let's just get more guys involved, guys that you're going to be counting on to contribute. So I'd love to get Brosmer 20 plus passing attempts in the first half, unless long touchdowns could ruin that. If we could have an explosive play, right? Because we didn't have a pass over 40 yards. Cole brought it up. How painful was it that the announcer slammed our pass offense? Please give us a 40-plus yard pass this game. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. How about Lemecki slant 55 yards to the house? We know he can do it. That'd be great to see this game. Just let's get the
deep
mojo
shot or
up
something
on offense. Yeah. So, my 3 keys would just be get Max throwing the ball around, get the offensive line's confidence back, and then just contain the quarterback, because he is an athlete. He was darting around against Holy Cross, so I'm sure he'll slip a few this game, but keeping him in check should be the most formidable aspect. And I'll add one more just because we didn't forget about it. Make your field goals, special teams do your job, get lined up, no penalties. How about nothing to hurt us? Bare minimum. It's year 8. We're asking the same thing. Just don't hurt us out there. Should be okay.
Yeah.
I got the Gophers 34-7 in this one. I know that's not a lot of points. Gopher fans want points. I just don't think we're going to show much of anything like last game. So I think we're just going to be running the ball.
Yeah, I totally agree. My keys of the game are quite simple. Number 1, contain the quarterback. Number 2, let's clean up the tackling. Let's make some open field tackles and not miss any tackles. This team should get your fundamentals down straight. And then number 3, offensive line. Let's try and protect the quarterback, and let's make some holes for the running backs. If they can just stick to their normal football, the Golden Gopher football, be sound up front, I think this offense will take off. Do that, and I think that the Gophers will definitely win the game. I got them winning 38-3.
Yeah. I guess my keys are probably pretty much the same as you guys said. We can't be missing tackles, especially tackles for loss, because that was so depleting last game too. It seemed like a lot of them came in the backfield. Reduce the missed tackles, clean game on special teams. Maybe we get a punt return just to see what we look like. No sacks on offense, and if we can hit a deep play, or if anything else, just see what Max can do throwing the ball. Like, what is he like? What does he see clearly? What is he not like? What kind of plays is he comfortable running and reading the defenses on? So, if anything else, it's kind of a self-scout game. I think we all understand what this game is. So, I got the Gophers winning 47-0.
Wow.
Hopefully,
that would get a lot of people excited.
Yeah,
I just
that
want
would be
no
awesome.
injuries. No injuries, no
Yeah.
injuries, no injuries.
How about? Yeah, I was just gonna bring this up, Cole. Coy, maybe get a punt return this week. I was just about to say my
Please.
unrealistic fan greedy wish would be we're blowing him out, and so we got to trot out the backup punt returner, kick returner out there for whatever reason, and it's Coy, whether it's Hoskins, someone else, and they make a play, and PJ's all of a
Yeah.
sudden, wait a second,
You know, it's
other
the
guys,
funny.
other guys are capable of fielding a kicked ball. This is incredible. There's more than one on our team. That would be great.
It's just funny that they're considered the backup returners. Like, it just. We
Which
could have a whole. Everyone listening, we really could have a whole podcast episode about special teams. It's the bane of our existence, and it's been like that for many years. But I agree. Hopefully that does happen, Max, and Cole, you're right. Let's get Coy out there. Let's see any athlete, any freshman athlete, anybody that just wants the ball to take it to the house. Just get them out there.
We have a couple of receivers where PJ talks about how like they're explosive difference makers with the ball in their hand that but aren't like quite there and as far as reading what the coverage is and knowing when to stop or when to cut, type stuff like that. There's no easier way to get them the ball than putting them in the spot where they're forced to kick it to them. Like it just doesn't make sense. We're in year 8. No offense to I'm blanking on 81's name. No offense to number 81.
Quentin Redding, Logan
Quentin Redding.
Quentin
Why do we need a walk-on back to returning kicks? He's not a walk-on anymore, but he started as a walk-on. Nothing wrong with walk-ons. I'm just saying we got some dynamic athletes out there. I'm not there
have like a
every day.
3-yard return, which was
plus
shocking.
Was Coy out there on punt coverage team? It looked like Coy was out there already in a picture I saw. I didn't even realize it during the game, but I think Coy might have been out there on like a punt coverage team. So if you're using him there,
just don't burn his
number 3.
Don't burn his red shirt. I guess if that's all you're gonna make him do, just don't.
Well, if he's your
right?
returner, I think their plan is to work him into the back end of the defense by the end of the year. To be honest, that's my prediction. Just with how Ryan Burns, 247 ready for the Gophers, just how he talks about him and what the coaches think about him. I think their plan is to just get him up to speed and eventually worked in. But Bryson Coleman did a good job. Is it Coleman? I always do this. Is it Bryson Coleman or Coleman Bryson? I always flip
Bryson Coleman.
Bryson Coleman. All right. He looks solid. Kerry Brown looked fast out there, missed a couple tackles. And Green was hurt last game, so getting all those guys rolling. Excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone, it's your favorite part of the show. The famous Sky U Pod parlay of the week. I wanted to go
2 out of 3 last week.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Oh, it was 1. I thought it was 2. I misspoken earlier in the show. I wanted to go 1-0, but guess what? We'll be 1-1 after today. If you both don't mind, I'm going to go first. This one is Friday, September 6th, we got a ball game between Duke and Northwestern.
Oh, no.
Northwestern hosts the Duke Blue Devils, and boy, oh boy, I don't know if it's going to be an offensive matchmaking. Look, both teams did win last week. They didn't play that great of teams, but their offenses look pretty anemic. And I think going up against each other, a better team, I'm not so sure if their offenses will do any much more. The over-under we have is 36.5.
Holy moly.
I'm going with the under. I got the under 36.5.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be offensive. Hey, look, it's Friday night in Evanston, right? Duke's not going to be able to do much. And Northwestern, I watched some highlights. I don't know if they'll do much offensively either. I'm hoping for 3 and outs, maybe some turnovers. We'll see. But I'm going the under 36.5.
I like that.
We'll take it.
Yeah, I went with one of the bigger games last week. Notre Dame covered, outright won. That paid off for me. I'm going to stick with it. Usually I have a rule to stay away from rivalry games, all right? But Iowa just owns Iowa State, and they're only a 2.5 point favorite at home against the Cyclones. Listen, I know Iowa's offense has struggled. They only had 6 points last week against Illinois State, but they felt really good after the second half. And I think that's all they needed. Their defense is probably going to score in this game. It seems to always happen. So give me Iowa to cover the 2.5 points and get the W over Iowa State. I'm going Hawkeyes. The
I love
benefit
that
of
pick.
this pick is even if we lose money, that means Iowa probably lost the game. So that's another bonus to throw on this one out there, and that's why I'm going with it. So
Nice.
yeah,
I like the pick.
Yeah, don't hate that. Man, I was struggling to find mine. I think I'm just gonna go with the old strategy of we're gonna fade UMass. Toledo Rockets, 20-point favorite at home. They can definitely beat UMass by 3 scores. Toledo played like some FCS school and kicked the crap out of them last week. UMass got beat by Eastern Michigan at home by a decent amount. UMass was a slight favorite last week, which I thought was incredible. They play a tough schedule because everyone they play is so much better than them. So we're going to go Toledo, minus 20. And a
Points, points,
prayer.
points. I like
there
it.
you have it, folks. That is the
Yep.
Sky Pod parlay of the week. We are not professionals. It only hit once last year, but it was dang close a lot. So
Here's the key, folks. You don't always have to parlay them. You know what we're saying?
Yeah.
It's more fun.
that's true.
Yep.
You
But
can, yeah.
You're
We're in it to
guaranteed
win it, so
one of
we go
these
all in.
games that we gave you. You're guaranteed one.
That's right. right.
With that, let's do our picks this week. Boy, college football is back, baby, and there are some good games this week. Let's start from the top that we have here: Texas versus Michigan. Let me just pull up the spread here.
Texas is 7.5 point favorites on the road against Michigan. I had that one up. I'll go first. It's tough because Texas played, really nobody and looked really good, and Michigan played Fresno, who's not like amazing, but better than who Texas played. So it's always a tough call. And that's a lot of points at home. But I was really scared that they couldn't throw the ball at all. And I think Texas means business and wants to make a statement. They kind of start hot in recent memory. I'm going to go Texas. And I don't like it, but I'm going to go Texas. 7.5 is a big spread on the road, but I'm going to take the Longhorns.
yeah, this game's scarier. It's one of those two where Vegas set the line over a touchdown, so now I feel like more scared going with Michigan for some reason. Like I'm falling into the trap, but I'm going to take Michigan.
Yeah.
Just at the big house. Texas did lose both of their top interior D linemen, so hopefully Michigan can take advantage in the run game. And Michigan's defense is still Michigan's defense, so hopefully they can keep it within a touchdown.
Can't argue that logic.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Michigan here. I do think that they lose the game. It's at the big house. I think their defense will be ready to play. Texas's offense is so potent, though, but I do think that they'll be able to hold them under that touchdown. So I'm going to go Michigan.
All right.
All right. Next game I got here is Arkansas at Oklahoma State. What I have here is Oklahoma State is they're 7.5 point favorites. Boy,
Sorry,
I don't
who's
know.
the home
I
game?
think
Who's the home team for this one?
Arkansas is. I'm sorry, Oklahoma State is.
Okay.
So Arkansas is on the road. It did open at 8.5 points. Now it's 7.5. I think that I am going to lean towards Arkansas. I think the same reason. I just think last year I was a little disappointed in Oklahoma State. This is a big game. It's an SEC
Sure.
team. Arkansas is, a decent football team. So I think that they'll be able to make it competitive. I do have Oklahoma State winning, but I do think it'll be closer than it seems. So I'm going to go with Arkansas.
I'm going to jump in because I don't have much to add. For those exact reasons, I think I'm going to take Arkansas to cover as well. I like Oklahoma State to get the dub, but Oklahoma State, South Dakota State, quality FCS team, good FCS team, but I don't know how
No
that's going to
Oklahoma
translate.
State,
So
though.
I do not want to put money on them covering that big of a spread against another Power 4 team this early in the year. So
Right.
I'm with you. I'd lean Arkansas.
Yeah, I'd take Arkansas on the points too. I do think Oklahoma State should win, but I don't think they can do it by more than 2 scores, especially early.
Yeah.
All right. Next game we have is Kansas at Illinois. I got to pull up the spread here. Kansas,
This is my game of the week, by the way.
5-point favorites. Boy, 5-point favorites on the road. Does Vegas know something that we don't?
Probably.
I'm going to go, believe it or not, rock chalk, baby. As Kurt has always said, I'm not a believer, but I'm definitely not a believer in Illinois. I guess when it comes to playing the Gophers, but I got to believe it. I got to see it to believe it. Altmaier, I know, Curry, you're liking what you see from him, but this is the real test, I think.
That's why I'm taking the Illini to cover.
I'm taking the Jayhawks to cover.
5-point dogs at home. I think Kansas is ranked. They're going to be riled up as Illinois can get. If they can just get some defensive play. It was a huge struggle last year. I didn't even look. I have no idea who Kansas played last week. I did not look that up prior to picking this game, but you don't need it. I'm telling you, this is a pure emotional game. It's the game of the week. Game day should be here over Texas and Michigan. It's going to be electric. These quarterbacks are awesome. I like the Illinois to win in a shootout. Give me the Illinois to cover that 5-point.
Yeah, I'll take the Illini too. I think they could win, especially at home. Kansas defense still a little bit suspect, probably. I don't know if they have a new defensive coordinator or not, but they have a new offensive coordinator, right? Kansas.
Yeah,
they lost their guy to
Penn State.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I'll take Illinois. Maybe they can beat them up in the trenches a little bit, keep it close.
All right. Well, we're going to throw it back to an old rivalry here, fellas. We got Colorado at Nebraska. Let me pull up the spread here. I don't have it in front of me. I'm sorry.
You're all right. My ESPN page just crashed as well. I'll wait for you. Anyway.
Regardless, I do think that I'm not a Colorado believer. I do think that Dion does make you drink the Kool-Aid and everything, but let's see where this is. I'm sorry. Hold on just a second.
Cornhuskers are currently a 7.5 point. Yeah.
7.5. I'm going to go Nebraska. I'm going to go Nebraska at home. You know that Big Red's going to be really hyped for this game. It's a tough environment, I'm sure, to play in,
Yeah. Here's the thing. Colorado's fans aren't going to transfer, so all the pressure that Raiola may feel is just going to be put on the weight by Nebraska and wanting revenge for last year's game. I don't know. Colorado has a way of kind of just hanging around with that offense, so I'm scared, but I'm going to follow you again. I'm going to go with the Huskers as well. That defense just really struggled last week against NDSU for the Colorado Buffs, so I am going to go with the Huskers, but I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't mind seeing Colorado beat them just to see their fans react.
Yeah, it took Colorado last week and didn't really work out against NDSU. but I'm gonna go with Colorado again. If you're gonna give me a touchdown with that offense,
It's a lot of points, right?
like
Like this
yeah, like
early too, without seeing all the
right,
teams see everybody. But yeah,
yeah. Colorado off a win, Colorado feels like they really have nothing to lose. Like no one was after last year. Like I know they had a lot of hype, but it seems like no one's really like no one's gonna be shocked if they don't do that great. But they still have such an explosive
yeah.
offense that they've got
Yeah.
potential.
All right, and the last game we have here is Tennessee at NC State. Tennessee they're 8-point favorites. I got to go with Tennessee. NC State, I
They
don't
struggled
know if
last week.
they did. And, I don't know a ton about them, but watching some of their games last year, it seemed like offensively they couldn't really get much going. Tennessee always has some athletes. Offensively, they seem to always do pretty well. And for that reason, I'm going to go with Tennessee.
Yeah,
Going Tennessee
I'm
as
gonna take
well.
the
Not much
Vols,
to add.
too. Yeah.
All right, we're all in on the Vol bandwagon again. Wouldn't upset me that much, money aside, to see them lose this one. But maybe NC State was just looking ahead. I'm sure we'll
Yeah.
all be watching that one again. A lot of good games this week, so
Right,
nice to not to have that immediate drop off that there is sometimes after week one.
right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Sky U Pod. Again, be sure to check us out on YouTube, X, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Go ahead and check out our partner's website, thecollegehuddle.com, for many more college football podcasts and articles. Please go ahead and like and subscribe to the videos and leave comments. Let us know what you think. We'd love to get you involved in our discussions here. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Go Gophers.